Hey, dude, first of all, good to see you again, man. How's things?
Man, things are great. We've been kind of doing shows here and there, getting ready for the tour and starting rehearsals next week. So things are about to get busy again.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So what was it like, getting back on the stage in front of people?
It's been awesome. I think the thing about doing shows here and there is like you don't have any kind of groove, and it's like you're trying to get used to being out on the road, and then you got to get used to being at home again, and it's this whole back and forth. So we're looking forward to some consistency.
Yeah, I can imagine that not getting into some sort of rhythm might affect, I don't know if it
Yeah.
affects the shows, but it kind of affects your life probably.
It's definitely it definitely affects my voice. I feel like my voice is better when I'm consistently using it. When I'm not, and it's like, oh, I gotta. It's I guess it's like no different than being in the gym and walking into the gym after 2 months and not using it and wondering why you can't you know bench press what you used to.
Yeah, I was just going to make the same analogy. It's like I'm a big believer in a body that keeps moving will keep moving, but once you stop,
Exactly.
it's hard to
It's
get it
like
going again.
all the elasticity is gone. Just everything contracts, and you feel 20 years older.
Yeah, no doubt. You got to get back on that horse and keep going. There's no question about
Yeah.
it.
So I've
Yeah.
been singing in the shower. So
Well, I guess there's only one fan in there, right?
yeah, exactly. Nobody to tell me otherwise.
Yeah. So no, that's pretty cool. A lot of people I've been talking to, it's kind of weird. Like in the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 months, one of the questions I have for these guys is, what is it like to be back on stage? I've never had to ask that question before in 30 years in this business. So
Yeah.
it's a strange time here.
Yeah. It's weird, but I think we've done probably about 10 shows total since we had a year and a half off, so 10 to 15 shows max. And the first few were definitely weird. It was but it wasn't just weird for us. It felt like the audience didn't really know what to do either.
Hmm.
Like they don't know if they should be excited or scream, like do I need to stand further away from it's weird. Like we've never had to really think about those things before. I'm used to like touching people's hands, and I'm just like, I feel like the snobby little bitch that can't, like, sorry, COVID, I can't take that home with me.
Yeah. I
And
was gonna say, what about like the backstage stuff? I mean, are you doing meet and greets at all or anything?
nothing.
No.
It's so unfamiliar and weird. Like we don't even have guests coming back.
Yeah.
Like there's no guests backstage. There's no meet and greets. I remember like giving somebody a pick and their hand touched me, and I'm like, oh, I guess I need to go back to the drum riser and get the hand sanitizer. Like, I don't know what to do here. It's weird. But yeah, I mean, it's with all that said, it's good to be back in front of real people again.
And how was it to play some of the new music?
Oh, that's been great. We were, we knew that, there's the one song they know that's playing heavy as the crown. That's gone over great ever since we started. But there's other songs that we started kind of incorporating, and that is usually a good go get a beer moment.
Mm.
You know what I mean? When you play a
Yeah.
new song and people are responding like crazy to it, so it's a good feeling.
Yeah. Have you been playing like theater shows pretty much, or what have you been doing?
Since we got back, we've been doing radio shows and
Okay.
in like fair dates and stuff like that. So the other night we were with Stone Temple Pilots in Oklahoma City for a big radio thing,
Oh
and
yeah, that was at a
uh,
Cat Fest. Yeah.
yeah, and that was a lot of fun. And those are fun, when you get to be on a bill with Stone Temple Pilots and Mammoth and Dirty Honey. It was a lot, and Plush. It was a lot of fun. I love being on big bills where I get to watch other bands play and get me excited to go out there as well.
Yeah, I just had Jeff Good on the show a couple weeks ago, and of course he's from here in Michigan. And Stone Temple Pilots, they just played here in Michigan not that long ago. They're such a good band live. I mean, they're
Oh
they're
my God.
they're like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, Jeff is great. He sounded great and his energy was so good. But you know, the DeLeo brothers, man, it's so hard not to just watch everything they're doing. They're so incredible at their instruments, and their guitar tones are just, we're on the side stage going, it's so stupid how good this sounds. Like, yeah. And Eric back there on the drum, it's definitely a band that you never really get to, and every song you're like, oh, forgot about that one. Oh God, I forgot about that one.
Yeah. And I wasn't going to talk about this, but you just brought it up. Jeff, you guys kind of had this thing where you guys kind of started your careers, or at least your career got a huge jump start on a singing show. Do you guys ever talk about that? Do you guys know each other?
I actually talked to him the other day and it didn't come up, but I found out from my bass player, because my bass player and him were in a band together back in the day. And he was like, yeah, he was on The Voice. I was like, I had no idea, because I just didn't know. And
I think he was
cool.
on X Factor, right?
Was it X Factor? Maybe it was. Maybe he got it wrong. But I think that's super cool. And he definitely nailed the songs, and his voice is great. And we didn't get a chance to talk much, but apparently we had met years before at some event, and we were just kind of reconnecting for the first time in like 15 years.
And then speaking of The Voice, that Mariah, the singer from Plush, she was on The Voice.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so that was.
Hey, I've always said, those routes or those routes aren't for everyone, but when they work out, they work out. And regardless of the exposure, you got to put in the work, and those two have certainly put it in.
Yeah. I didn't even know, like, I have an 18 or a 20-year-old daughter, and she watches The Voice. I don't even know how it works. I'm like, wait a second. What do they do? They're sitting there listening. I didn't really understand how this works. So Mariah kind of told me how it worked. And then someone told me that, said, you were on The Masked Singer, another show that I don't understand.
Yeah.
So you were on The Masked Singer. When was this? Sorry if I'm asking questions I should know the answer to.
No, not at all. This was in 2019 on season 2. And that is strictly fun. It's like, there's no like, you don't go home with a car or anything, some big record. I mean, these are people that already have careers that are going out and under the veil of anonymity. And I've never done acid, but I imagine that was what it was like when I'm looking around and I'm seeing all these different costumes, and we're not allowed to talk to each other, so it's all gestures and weird, like, and I'm like, what is my life? I'm in this dog costume, and then there's a ladybug over there, there's a fox, there's the creepiest, like the stuff of nightmares was Seal's costume. I found out it was Seal later. I didn't have a clue it was Seal when I'm on the show. The creepiest, like, jaguar. It reminded me of the creepy cat from like Mr. Rogers, the creepy little mangy looking cat, and it was so weird. But it was a lot of fun just to do that, and nobody know who you are, and just go out there. And I remember seeing Ryan Reynolds do it years ago on YouTube on the Korean version, and he was dressed as this unicorn, and I was just looking at it going, that seems like it would be so much fun to just go out there. Nobody knows who you are. You could sing whatever you want with no judgment. And when the opportunity came up, I was like, yes, count me in. I'm in.
Yeah, one of my listeners, I posted a question on Facebook, which I had talked to Chris about, and asked him about The Masked Singer. And so you said there was a ladybug and something else. So were those other masked singers celebrities?
Yeah. I found out one was Patti LaBelle. Like, we didn't know, we weren't allowed to interact, so we never saw the other ones perform. They were just, every now and then they would be like, oh, we need everybody together on stage for like a bumper shot or whatever. And we're like, but you cannot talk, because nobody can know who is who. And half the producers didn't even know. So it was weird. And it was a good thing, because I would have probably shit my pants had I known I was up against Patti LaBelle and Seal. And I was up against Patti LaBelle for sure in one of my competitions. And That would have been terrifying. I would have been rethinking everything up to that point. So it worked out in my favor, but it was cool to watch it on television and see it unfold like everyone else and go, I had no idea.
Well, let me ask you about this. I was thinking about this morning. So we just talked about Mariah and Jeff and yourself. How do you adjust to the fame from being, fairly a nobody to being on this show and then being, a singing superstar in a relatively quick amount of time? How do you do that?
Well, luckily, time has been on our side in regards to that, because the more time has gone by, the less that has happened, the less, people come up to you, and the beard helps. And now that we're having to wear masks all the time, that certainly helps. But I will say, in the early years, it was pretty jarring, because I couldn't go anywhere to a restaurant and have, a meal with my family without 15 people like lining up at the table. And like, you don't know how to respond to that. You don't know whether to, because at the end of the day, like, I don't want my family to think that these people are more important than them. They only get me for, this little amount of time. And now I'm spending it with, it was a weird thing to navigate, because it was new to the kids as well. And I think in some respect, they were probably thinking, oh, they took my dad away, and they were so young. That was a weird thing to get used to. And now it's like, no big deal. They're older, in their 20s, and my younger kids, they grew up with it, so they don't know any different. So if people come up to me in an airport, they just expect, they don't even ask what that's about. They're just so used to it that it doesn't even faze them. But I think the first couple years, it was tough for me to get used to, because I was still trying to figure it out myself. And I'm sure I handled situations not in the best way. I'm sure I wasn't the nicest person all the time. And I look back at that and as a learning experience, because I've grown to, I think, embrace all the aspects of what comes with doing what I do, and being grateful for all of it. And now, like, I don't say no to anyone, except for, someone coming up to me not wearing a mask and getting up in my face. Not the year to do that, bud. Let's watch the news here. But that's certainly been a weird, it's kind of deflected a lot of situations as of late.
Yeah. Because some of the bands, like you were just talking about, like Dirty Honey and those kind of guys, their celebrity kind of goes like this, and yours kind of went like this, right away. And that's why I was asking about the fame thing, because that's got to be, like you said, it was somewhat jarring, I'm sure, just trying to walk around and these people know who I am.
Yeah, it was one of those things where my face was more famous than our music. You know what I mean? And that comes along with television. And at the time when I got famous, that was the biggest television show in the world.
Yeah.
It started tapering off a few years afterwards. So I came in where it was like at the pinnacle of success of that show. And like everyone on that season, nobody could escape notoriety. So that was part of it as well. It was during a time where the internet still wasn't a huge thing in regards to getting your music heard. YouTube wasn't a huge thing. American Idol was the thing to watch, whether you liked it or not. Everyone was talking about it the next day, like a football game. You know what I mean? So I think that had a lot to do with it as well. The timing was just, was ripe for attention.
Yeah, everything kind of hit at the right time. So you're down in Nashville. Do you see what's her name? Carrie Fisher now, right? Is it, Carrie Underwood. Do you see her around?
I have never seen her since I lived here.
Oh, okay.
It's so weird who you run into and who you don't run into. I was at a restaurant the other day and saw Luke Bryan, or you'll be, at a stoplight and you look and, oh, there's Jack White. And it's so random that you don't even, it's such a weird thing because people, when they're out, it's just so casual that you don't even, I think it's like very disarming seeing people in Nashville.
Yeah.
Because
I was just down there a couple weeks ago. I should have hit you up to come out and hang out, but we were just down there. Kid Rock's son got married, so
right on.
Yeah, check that out. So, but yeah, I've been down there now 3 times in the last year. I'm kind of getting to know my way around a little bit. Even found some cool bike paths down there, some of the greenways.
Oh, nice. You bike a lot?
Yeah, I like to get out and burn off some calories from the night before.
For sure.
This Shelby Bottoms Greenway is one of my favorites. I don't know if you're familiar with that, up by the
You know what? I have yet to find a bike. I have to get a bike. I haven't gotten a bike since I moved here. We when we sold everything when we left North Carolina, I've yet to get a bike again. So I love biking. I miss it. I got a one wheel now that I cruise around the neighborhood. But yeah, I miss being on a bike.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to your music here. The new record, of course, out, Dearly Beloved. And this one, obviously an independent release and stuff. Talk about the trials, tribulations, the challenges of doing it on your own.
I think the biggest challenge was getting it done. I think the biggest challenge was the timing and getting everybody in the same place and getting the band on the record because everyone was so separated. And it was early in the pandemic. So that was the challenge, is getting everybody's parts on. But that aside, I mean, the way this record, came about, and the writing process and everything, it was so organic and it never felt forced. And we started writing the record pre-pandemic. Everything shuts down in February. Couple months off, I get back in the studio and finish writing and recording my parts. And then we started sending the tracks out to the band, like, hey, getting your parts here. We flew our drummer out so we could get the best drum sound we could. But other than that, everybody pretty much did their parts at home. And we've never done that before. And it worked out way better than we could have anticipated. And I think there was something to be said about everyone in the comfort of their home and feeling that creative freedom, just like I felt not having a label breathing down my neck, having the creative freedom to just write, and not write for the sake of radio, not write for the sake of trying to fit, not having anybody go, hey, we need this type of song, or you see what this band's doing, you need to do what they're doing. It was none of that. It was we wrote, and it felt so organic and so natural that anything that didn't feel that way, or if anything felt forced, we knew it just wasn't right for the record, and we would abandon it almost immediately after, beating our heads up against the wall. If a song wasn't working, we were like, but I like this part. Yeah, but it's not worth it. The song sucks. Next. And it was the first time in a long time that I can remember creating without any parameters, or without anybody coming in and putting their thumbprint on it at the end of the day, and even talking to the producers about where they think the production should go. It was all me, Scott Stevens, and Marty Fredrickson. That was our circle of quality control. We kept it all there, and we dictated everything. And at the end of it, we were just so happy with the result. And I think this is the first record that I can say from top to bottom had no outward influence that wasn't asked for or wanted. You know what I mean? And it
sounds like it was freeing.
It was so liberating, man. It was such a great experience. And that carried over into the, making the videos and everything. Just having that freedom to create, I think, was something that I hadn't felt in a very long time. And not even having the pressure that I was putting on myself, that I needed to write this type of song, or putting the pressure on myself that it's got to be a radio hit, it's got to sound like this. we just went in and wanted to write the best record we could. And that's what we feel like we did.
No, that's awesome. And it's, it sounds to me like, it's maybe every artist should have a chance to do that at least once.
Absolutely. 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 And it's so weird, you get caught up in and I was guilty of it myself. You get caught up in all the what everybody else is doing. Oh, yeah. What are they doing? Oh, they're killing it. They're selling records. What are they doing different? And you start to buy into this like theory that you've got to change what you do, and you've got to start, changing the way you approach music or changing the way you write, and all the bullshit you tell yourself, and you start second guessing yourself as a writer and as an artist. And when I started getting rid of all those voices and listening to my own, everything just opened up.
Yeah. So Good, Bad, or Indifferent, it was something that you had that you wanted to put out, and it's completely 100% yours.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got you. Well, a couple more things here. We'll throw out some random things here that some listeners wanted me to ask you about for the last part of the interview here. And one of which, the current state of rock and roll. Of course, you're going out with Seven Dust and Tremonti. Somebody wanted me to ask you about what you thought about the current state of music and where we are right now, and anything you might like that's out there that we might heard of.
I love Nothing But Thieves. I think everybody should listen to that band. New Ask in Alexandria is great. I'm a huge fan of, and they're friends of mine as well. Shinedown. Can't wait for what they got coming out next year. Hopefully, I think I've heard some rumblings of them working on a new record. But the current state of music, and it's not like I've been following anything specific, but I feel it inside me that rock is making a big comeback. Like I feel like people want to hear rock and roll more than, and I don't know if it's the angst of everything that's going on or just the nature and climate of our world, but we want to feel something. We want to feel real connection to music, and we want to be evoked. We want our emotions to be evoked, I feel like. And that was something that I felt going into this record. Like I wanted to feel something, and, going back and listening to the records that made me want to do this to begin with, that made me feel alive and made me feel something inside me, like Throwing Copper or Secret Samadhi or, Super Unknown, Bad Motorfinger, those records that made me want to be a musician. I think people are craving that feeling with music again. And I think rock and roll is one of those places that you get those emotions evoked, and it doesn't feel so linear. It doesn't feel so, I don't know. I'm a sucker for a good pop song. I've always been a sucker for a good pop song. And I think there's a time and place for that. And I think the climate of the world right now, people are craving something a little more organic and a little more, I don't know, makes you want to, break something or hell, even cry, something that evokes something out of you that feels real. And I think rock and roll does that.
You've had a chance, obviously, I'm sure, to talk to Ed Kowalczyk and tell him about how much you appreciated all this stuff growing up, right? From live.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think I've done it ad nauseum. I think he's sick of hearing about it at this point. But yeah, those guys were a huge influence.
So you just mentioned Wolfgang Van Halen, playing with him. Somebody wanted me to ask you, Sammy or Dave? That's like the ultimate question, I suppose, right?
Well, I think as a showman, you can't deny, the showmanship of David Lee Roth. But as a singer, I gotta say, I'm a Sammy guy. I think Sammy's voice is incredible. I always loved those songs. And it could have been the era that I was introduced to Van Halen too, Sammy was predominantly the guy during the time that I remember hearing them on the radio a lot. So I'm kind of partial to that era of Van Halen, but at the same time, you can't deny, the the DLR.
Yeah, DLR. Yeah, no, that's a tough one, man. No, both those eras are so good as far as I'm concerned. So
I think you can have them both. I think you can have them both.
Yeah, well,
and appreciate them both.
Of course, yeah, no question about it.
Yeah.
All right, final thing. You were just talking about being in Nashville and you run into celebrities. So
it's the Sharon phase that I had that I couldn't really.
yeah, I think we're all in agreement with that for sure. Poor guy. That's a tough hill to climb, man. When you're putting.
Yeah, I mean,
would you have taken that on?
Absolutely not. No way in hell. No.
All right. Last thing here for you. Talk about being in Nashville. You just run into celebrities. So I'm down there in Nashville a few weeks ago, and I run into John Party, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
He just redid a song for Metallica's Blacklist where they covered all the Metallica songs. He did Wherever I May Roam from the Black record. So how did the Black record play an influence on your musical influence growing up?
Oh, my God. That was the first metal record that I remember hearing that I was like, oh my God, metal can sound like this. I remember my brother had the cassette, and I heard Unforgiven and then Wherever I May Roam, and the whole record became such a staple for me, especially when I was learning guitar. I remember one of the first guitar solos I learned how to play was For Nothing Else Matters. And it wasn't great, but I learned it. And I still have the tab book somewhere in storage, but I worshiped that album. It was a huge influence on me as a teenager. Yeah, and I love that record. We were listening to the Blacklist record the other day on the bus.
Really?
Yeah, because I was like, oh my God, they did this song. They did this song too. They did this song, and I don't know if you heard Miley Cyrus's was killer.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
And Sam Fender did an incredible piano version of Sad But True. It was so cool. And we actually heard John Party's version as well of Wherever I May Roam. And I just think that was such a cool concept. I remember we were all going, damn, I would have loved to do something on this record, because everybody has their own taste to it and their own flavor. Who else were we listening to? God, it was so many. Royal Blood had a really cool version. They did. But yeah, I think that was such a cool idea.
Yeah. And they put out this podcast. I think it was 8 or 9 episodes. There might even be another episode coming out. But one thing that stuck out to me with that podcast was somebody said, just kind of in passing, that record was recorded 30 years ago, and you're hard pressed to find a record that sounds better than that nowadays.
It still holds up. It's like all the tones, it cuts through on even like the shittiest Bluetooth speaker. It still sounds good.
Yeah, no question about it. So
yeah.
Well, listen, Chris, thanks for the time. Dearly Beloved is out right now. Of course, the tour coming up with Seven Dust in Tremonti. And when you come through the Motor City, well, no guests. That's right. No guests. We'll have to take you to a hockey game or something, try to sneak you out of the arena a little bit.
Man, I can't wait to just get back to how things, where I get to go hang out with everybody backstage. And things are weird, but the tour is the utmost importance right now to keep it going and not have to cancel any shows. So we want to keep everybody healthy and safe.